What up, sports fans and fellow foodies? I'm Julie, and welcome to my kitchen, where each week I talk sports while whipping up culinary creations. Today was MLB trade deadline day, and it was interesting, to say the least. I was like that Michael Jackson gif from the beginning of Thriller, of sitting and eating the popcorn and all bug-eyed and just waiting to see what's gonna happen. That was me today. And checking my phone every 2 seconds and refreshing and being like, come on, Bob Nightingale. Come on, Jeff Passan. What's going on here? Let's go, John Heyman. I was on top of it all day, and things got crazy at the very end. All right, so we're talking about that popcorn. I'm going to be making some popcorn tonight. And I'm starting out. I've got half a cup of kernels ready to go. And I've got 3 tablespoons of my good old standard grapeseed oil. Love frying and cooking in this because it doesn't burn as easily as other oils. So right now I'm gonna let those 3 kernels work in there to see when it's ready to add the rest of it, just to give it a quick test there. That's how the day was going. You were waiting and waiting, and you hear those little pops. There'd be a deal come through, and then there'd be another deal come through, and you're waiting, and you're looking at that 5 o'clock Central Time deadline, and you're knowing that last hour is just gonna explode. It's gonna go bonkers. And it did. And especially for the Chicago Cubs, they were one of the teams that came away with the highest grades for the moves they made. They picked up a whole lot of pitching today. And they didn't do a lot of pitching acquisitions in the offseason, which I was pretty critical of that, Jed Hoyer. I thought they did nothing to help their bullpen in the offseason. So when they were making all these pitching moves today, it's a team that has had so many pitchers on the injured list this year, and now all of a sudden, you've got Kevin Gausman coming over from the Toronto Blue Jays, where he helped lead them to their AL pennant last year. You have Clay Holmes coming over, and you have Ryan Zefferjon coming over from the Angels. So you get a reliever, plus those 2 starters, and you're going to be getting guys back healthy. That's a crazy way to set up for what the Cubs are hoping will be a strong postseason run. All right, we heard those couple of pops in there. I see the kernels look fluffy and beautiful. So I'm going to add the rest of our kernels into here. And of course I got the lid on. It's venting a little bit here on the sides. And I'll just give it a couple little shakes every now and then to make sure it is not burning. So again, you had the Cubs being very active on the pitching market today. You had the White Sox being kind of active. They acquired Luis Castillo over the weekend. So they get a starter who's got a veteran presence, but one that's not been pitching real well this year. See, now this is what I'm talking about. This is how it was between like 4 and 5 o'clock today. All of a sudden, my phone's pinging, and I'm looking at the TV, and I'm watching MLB Network, and I'm seeing all these things come through. This is what we love to see when there's a trade deadline. We love to see all that action happening. I even loved this as a kid, when you were like waiting for popcorn to pop, and you were just like listening for the pops, whether it was microwave or Jiffy Pop or whatever. So this is just about done already. Look how quick that was. A lot quicker than some of those deals were coming through today. So the White Sox must have seen something in Castillo that they feel like they can fix. Obviously, with Brian Bannister and Zach Bove on their staff, they've done some great work with their pitchers. Hopefully, they've got something here that they're seeing that they think they can tweak and get him on the right track right now. So as we're watching our popcorn here reach just about the top, that's a whole lot of popcorn for that little half a cup of kernels, right? We saw the biggest pop of the entire trade deadline happen on Saturday. Didn't happen today at all. That was Tarek Skubal going from the Detroit Tigers to, who else? The Dodgers, of course. The rich get richer. I was kind of crabby when I heard that. But really, who you should be crabby at is the rest of baseball for not making a better effort to get him, for letting him go to the richest team in baseball. Look at how pretty that looks. All right, we got a couple little random pops going there, but we're gonna pull it. That means it's pretty much done. We're gonna add this to our bowl, and we're gonna be making, oh boy, some chaotic popcorn here. Adding all sorts of fun stuff here. Oh, the best part is when you dump it in the bowl, and there are no burnt kernels. Woohoo! All right, so I've got the base here. The base is just standard baseball transactions going down. And then it gets kind of crazy, kind of funky. Of course, we're gonna add some butter and salt because, of course, if you're going to the movies, if you're just, popping it at home to watch Netflix or something, gotta have butter and the salt, right? All right, so we'll add a little bit of that. We'll shake it through, and then we're gonna start adding the fun stuff. So if you were White Sox fans today, and I was checking out what you were saying on White Sox Twitter, you were a little bit salty. I was right there with you. I wanted Adley Rutschman, the catcher from Baltimore, who wound up getting traded to the Red Sox. You want to talk about teams that are on a roll right now? They've won 28 out of 33. That's insane, and that's who the White Sox are going to be facing next in Boston. And the Red Sox had to dump a whole lot of prospects to do it. They got rid of 3 of their top 5 and 5 prospects overall. Okay, so they got their target. The White Sox didn't, although they won't tell you that. But that was the #1 catcher that everyone was talking about. And the White Sox didn't get him. They wound up getting Joey Bart, who is a former #2 overall pick in the draft back in 2018. He was supposed to be the next Buster Posey in San Francisco. White Sox got him from Atlanta. Again, another guy who really didn't have a whole lot of success this year. So White Sox fans, probably a little disappointed. And on top of that, the White Sox sent down Edgar Caro and kept Drew Romo. Huh? Go figure. All right, so because Sox fans are a little salty, we're adding some kettle chips into here. So, and they're broken up because, White Sox fans always feel a little broken, right? All right, then you had the sweet deals today. Things like, those crazy Cubs making all those pitching moves. So we're gonna add a little caramel corn to this. There really were some fun happenings today. Of course, if you're watching other teams in your division do stuff, it's not as much fun. The Guardians and the Twins were both making moves today because they're chasing the White Sox. The Tigers have conceded. The Tigers not only gave up Scooble over the weekend, but they traded Casey Mize today. And so way to go, San Diego Padres. They managed to get not only Casey Mize, but Robbie Ray, 2 starting pitchers to strengthen their rotation. So nice job over there solidifying what they had on their pitching staff. So like I said, there were teams in the White Sox division who were making moves. There were teams in the Cubs division making moves, but not the Cheeseheads. As I add my white cheddar seasoning, those Brewers, really quiet. I'd be pretty salty if I were a Brewers fan. Cubs making a lot of moves, Brewers not doing so much, and those Cubs feeling like they're not that far back. What, about a half a dozen games or so? They're feeling like those Brewers might be catchable. All right, then you had prospects today. Prospects are honey roasted peanuts. People want to hang on to them, but you got to part with them, and there were a lot of them moving around today. White Sox did not have to get rid of a lot of their prospects. Cubs did have to part with some of their guys, including their #2 prospect overall, because they had to get rid of Jefferson Rojas, who is a hit. You have to take some of those hits when you're acquiring talent. You have to know which guys you're going to get rid of. But he was the biggest guy on the move from the Cubs farm system. All right, then there were some things that were just absolutely bat bleep crazy today. And when you're talking about bat bleep crazy, we're going to add some spicy chili picante con limon corn nuts to just kick things up a little bit. So maybe one of the craziest. It's so funny, if you read the grades for each team, the Red Sox both got high marks and low marks because they gave away so many prospects, but also because they got their man. They got the catcher that people wanted. So that was kind of a mixed bag one. That was kind of funny. And speaking of catchers, here's a crazy twist today. The Yankees, who needed a catcher, didn't get one, but the teams just ahead and just behind them in their division did. So you had Tampa and the Red Sox, the 2 teams sandwiched around the Yankees, both picking up catchers. While the Yankees sat there and didn't do a whole lot. I'm going to check on their fans. They might be kind of salty too. And we talked about all these twists today. So of course we're going to add our mini pretzel twists. These were from when we did our everything snack mix about a month or so ago. And you know what? While I was watching all the trade stuff go down over the weekend, I had some in my pantry that I pulled out, and it was just as good as when I first made it. We are winding down with our mix here. Look at how awesome this is looking. Don't you just want to like stick your face in there? Okay, well maybe not, but it does look really good. And if you love salty and sweet, well, we're gonna go ahead and add a little chocolate drizzle to this hot mess here. And this kind of represents the cream of the crop, the Dodgers, just going out and getting more pitching help. Do you know the Dodgers have 8 lefties right now on their staff? That's not good news if the White Sox are gonna face the Dodgers in the World Series, because the White Sox are not so good against lefties. The White Sox did pick up an outfielder from Colorado today, which left a lot of people kind of scratching their heads. They picked up a center fielder, Brenton Doyle, and maybe to give the White Sox an option when Tristan Peters can't hit lefties. So we don't want to mix this too much because we don't want it to be muddy, but we do want that chocolate to work its way down in there. This is the fun part. This is when you get to roll up your sleeves and get messy, Chris Getz and Jed Hoyer. They got some other acquisitions today too. The White Sox, over this weekend, the White Sox added to their bullpen. They got Huascar Brazoban. And that'll at least give them a guy who throws in the upper 90s coming out of the pen. But their pen's been pretty good lately. So it remains to be seen how this all pans out. And we're going to have to keep an eye on it as we watch both the Cubs and the White Sox make that push toward the playoffs in the second half here. As of right now, the season ended today. They're both playoff teams. And we'll see how things pan out for some of those teams like the Dodgers. Just because you get the best guy on the market doesn't mean you win the World Series. Nobody wants to see a three-peat except Dodger fans, right? I sure don't. Anyway, I'm going to dig into this hot mess. This is crazy. This is crazy, but man, it looks really good. Oh my gosh, so good. So much salt and sweet, and that's exactly how we're feeling today at the trade deadline. Thanks for joining me here in my kitchen. I'll see you next time.